Alrighty. So let me go ahead and the way that I would like to do this normally, I like to go through reviews step by step and have you all code it up for me. But because I have not been with you all week, I don't have a clear understanding of where you are in React. Hal gave me a quick update on where everyone should be. But let's, instead of having you code all of this out and I drive, let's do it together. So I'll do a feature, you do a feature, I'll do a feature, you do a feature. If you get stuck, I'll help you. If I get stuck, you'll help me. It'll be a group effort here. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a stock page, a very simple one. Let's go ahead and get our server going. I already have JSON web server installed, so I don't have to run npm install JSON web server. Also, if I do anything you haven't seen and I make some assumptions that you've seen something but you don't know what it is, please stop me. All right, we got our server going, and we're going to go ahead and run npm start. Hit yes, and open our friend Google, and check out our Flatiron Stock Exchange. Now, currently there's nothing on here. We need to get some data up here. But as for features, we will be able to view all of our stocks here. We will be able to have a portfolio. We will be able to add stocks to our portfolio. We will be able to remove stocks from our portfolio. And then we will be able to do some filtering with this search bar and some sorting with this alphabetical or price button. So our first one is getting all the stocks to render on the page. So all the styling should already be in stock.js. Now I'm going to take a quick look at all my components. I have my app component, and I have my index, which is my most parent, which calls my app and attaches it to the DOM. My app component calls a header and a main component. It's imported the two of them up here, so that's where they're coming from. If I look inside my containers, my main container is importing 3 other containers: a stock container, a portfolio container, and a search bar. My stock container is importing a stock component, and my portfolio container is importing the same stock component. So that's kind of interesting. We're kind of using the same child component for 2 container components. And then here we can check out the stock. This looks like it is our card that we're going to build with our company name and our price. And we have our search bar that has our filter and our sorting radio buttons. And we have a plain header here that's not very special or doing anything. So let's work on that first deliverable and getting the stocks on the page. So with this being the first thing, how do you think I should do that? Is there something that will run when my component loads and only run once?
Component did mount.
Exactly. Can someone explain component did mount a bit? Like, what is it?
Isn't that something what you use to try to grab the data and like stick it up something like that?
I mean that is what we're using it for, but like, what is it on a broader sense? Like, what type of function component is it? Sorry, or functional thing is it? What does React call it?
Lifecycle?
Yeah, it's a lifecycle method for React. Now, component did mount is special. If I was to call a fetch out of component did mount, that fetch would be called every single time this app was rendered. But component did mount is a special function that will only call that fetch when the component is originally mounted. So it will only call it once. Let's go ahead and do our fetch. We'll pass in the URL that they gave us in our README, which is just localhost/stocks. I'm going to just use some thens. I'm assuming this is what Sundari taught you or used. This is what you used in mod 3. Sounding right, or did you do something with async or await?
No, she did it that way.
Cool. Maybe after the code challenge, I'll teach you all how to use async and await. I'm going to go ahead and console log.
I was wondering, maybe after.
Okay.
Sorry.
All good. So as a reminder, you can just console log here. This is the same as doing something like JSON and then passing JSON here. This is just some shorthand that I'm doing. Let's go ahead and check this out. All right, fail to fetch. Interesting. So what are your thoughts here? Why did this fail to fetch?
Line 10, you didn't assign JSON to anything.
Well, that's fine. That's not the problem here.
Oh.
Because that's what I was talking about a second ago. With the, this is a shorthand for this. I can do this way.
So the server is not the whole. We need the HTTP, like something.
Very nice. Thank you. I'm missing the HTTP here.
Oh, wow.
The URL was just wrong. All right. Here's our array of all of our stocks. Awesome. All right. Now that we have our stocks, what do I do with them? Where should I store my stocks?
In the state.
Okay. How do I define state in app?
Constructor. The circle brackets, and then the curly brackets after that. Then I say this dot state equals curly brackets. I say stocks. Yeah, colon, and have it as an empty array because it's an array.
Perfect. Now I'm going to teach you another shorthand for this. You actually, in modern React, don't need a constructor. You can actually define state like this, where it's just state equals a object and with stocks. The constructor with super was necessary in an older version of React. Modern React doesn't need it. So you don't have to use this shorthand in the code challenge. It just saves you time and less remembering. So I think stocks is a good idea here. Now that we have stocks here in state, can I have someone else tell me how do I get my data from here into state? What is the method called that does that for me?
It's not set state.
Perfect. And then I'm going to identify the key that I want to set the state to, which is going to be stocks. And I'm going to put my JSON object there. And that should go ahead and do it. So now that we're doing that, now that our stuff is in state, is there a way I can check that? Any idea?
Console log it.
Yeah, let's console log it.
Console log the state.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so if we take a look here, this is the first time our component gets rendered. And it runs and the state doesn't have anything in it. This is when the component gets rendered after the component amount runs and it does the fetch. And so now all of our items are in state where we can access them and pass them down through props. So now that we have that, the way that this application is flowing is we are going from main container to either stock container or portfolio container. Probably stock container, which will render our stocks. Render our stocks with the stock component. So starting up here, how do I get this all the way down to our stock component?
Props
Props where? Where am I passing it?
to main container.
Sounds good. Let's go ahead and call it stocks. And we will go ahead and do this dot state dot stocks. And let's go to our main container. And I am going to, again, console log our props. Oh, I heard someone. Well, is it just props or am I missing something?
Is this dot props?
It is. Why is it this dot props instead of just props?
Well, I think is it because like this dot props is kind of like referring to specifically this variable instead of like other variables.
That is technically true, but the reason that we need this dot props is because this is a class component. If this was a function component or a functional component, we would pass props as a argument and call props then. This is a property on this class, a main container, that was extended from our component. So if you remember in Mod 3, we briefly went over how inheritance worked with classes. If you don't remember that, that's fine, but that's what's happening. This props is on this main container, and that is why we have to use this here. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And inside of our main container right here, we have our stocks array passed down properly. Awesome. So since you already know how to do that, let's just do it again before our stock container. Oops. And inside of our stock container, now is when we have to render our individual stocks. Now this is a little weird, right? How am I going to render multiple stocks inside the single stock container? Can you throw some ideas at me?
Don't you have to use dot map?
I'm hearing a dot map. Yeah, that sounds great. What do I do with that dot map?
I probably start off as a function, like saying generate all stocks, and then after that,
let's
work
do
on from there.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to do build stocks because I'm going to misspell generate somehow. And then we'll
Can we still use an arrow function in this part? 'Cause I'm just
You got it. Good job. Why do we need to use an arrow function?
It works.
It does work, but it gives you the context of this. It helps carry that through. So this dot props dot stocks dot map, and then so we're mapping through the stocks. What goes in here?
I'd say stock or stock item.
And then what's on this side of the arrow? How am I getting
Curly
that
brackets.
component? Sure.
Oh yeah, I think we need a return before this as well.
Good
Before
call.
line
Good
7, yeah.
call. And then what's here?
A stock. Yeah. The less than sign. Yeah, and stock. And then I say, is it stock? Stock. Yeah. Or
So-
stock items.
Well, we define stock item here, so we're passing down. We're passing it a prop, right? So
Yeah. That's what I meant as a prop. That's what I meant.
yeah, so we're taking a single stock, and we are passing it one of the items from our mapped array. So we're passing it the stock item. So every time that this maps, this goes through every single item in the array, and stock item represents that item. For every item in that array, it's going to build a stock component and then pass it that stock item. The stock item is being grabbed from this dot props array. So we don't have to do this dot props dot stock. That is coming from inside of this map function. Great. Would this work?
No.
What am I missing?
Line 17. Render the stocks as in this dot build stocks.
Perfect.
I believe that it needs the circle bracket as well. Yeah.
Yep. Correct. Let's go ahead and give this a try.
So stock item doesn't need to be enclosed in parentheses after the map on line 7.
So stock item, what do you hear?
But on line 7, it doesn't need to be like, that's not.
Oh, you mean this doesn't have to be like this?
Yeah.
So this is ES6 syntax. You don't need to, unless you're doing multiple items, like if you're doing a stock item and index here, or index, yeah. Then you need to do parentheses. But if you're just doing one item, you don't need it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So good news, we have our cards. They're completely empty, but they're here. So let's fill them up. From someone I haven't heard from yet, how do I put the name and the stock price in our cards?
Do I count as someone you've heard from already?
Sure. How about we do after 10 seconds, if no one really wants to go, someone I've heard from can go. This is a long 10 seconds.
Okay, I guess I can go. I will probably put props inside the circle brackets. Yeah.
Good call. Good call.
And then after that, like right before the div in line 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd probably say let, and then curly brackets.
Ah, you're doing some destructuring.
Yeah, like curly brackets. Is it company name? I mean, company name and stock.
So what we have is actually just stock, and if we wanted to do the props.stock, we could do let, I believe it's name and price.
Oh yeah, I was just no, it's because I was just only saying that because I wasn't really too sure what values we were using.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would end up working like that. But another thing that we can do, and I don't know if you've seen this, if we wanted to destructure the props inside of here, we can also do stock here, and then just do stock dot whatever. We could also do it the other way where we're doing stock dot props. I'd like to do it this way if it's okay. I think this is a little bit cleaner. There's going to be a bug here also. Let's go ahead and real quick, we'll do stock dot name and stock dot price, but let's see what that bug is.
Oh, okay. That's what it's called.
All right. So I guess we won't have that bug. Weird. Why? React, you're being weird. I don't like that. So the bug that should be happening here is this is missing its return. I don't know why it's deciding to work. It is really, really weird to me. But the function should have a return here. So that is, oh, I see what they did. Because they put this circle bracket here instead of a curly bracket, this counts as a one-liner entire return, which is clever and elegant, but a little confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit more readable for you, and just put it in the curly brackets, and we'll do our return here. If you like doing it that way, go for it. I think that is a great, again, elegant way to do it. I think that when you're looking at this for notes, it will confuse you if you haven't seen it before. So I'm just going to do it this way, if that's okay. Again, the reason why it worked before is because technically it was a one-liner, or it can count as a one-liner, and just returned everything. All right. So we have this coming up now. We have all our stocks. What is this? Why is this mad at me?
It's because there's no key that's being called in what app, I believe.
Cool.
Or is it?
Could I get someone I haven't heard of yet, or who I haven't heard of as much, to tell me how to get that key into our stock?
Is that a key that we put on the on the stock container?
Exactly.
With the on state?
Mm-hmm,
Is that something that we declare on state?
So we don't have to declare it on state, but we can put it on the stock container here someplace. So we can use that key. That key could be anything, right? We can put a random number there. We can put the index of the array. Or do you want to use the ID for our stock? That should be unique, right?
Okay. So key equals the brackets and then stock.id.
I like it. All right. And now that angry warning went away. Again,
Question about that.
go ahead.
Sorry. it's a warning, but it's not necessarily necessary to work.
Correct.
Is it something that you want us to do on the code challenge because it gets rid of the error, or if it's not there, it doesn't matter?
It's something that I will talk to you about if you don't have it. It's something, if you don't put it in, it's not the biggest deal because it won't break your app. It's something that you should try to have in just because it is just good practice, but it will not break your app. If you don't have it in the code challenge, it won't be the biggest deal in the world. I will point it out and talk to you about it, but that's about it. Cool. Good question. All right, so we have this appearing now. Let's go to our README. We got that one done. And let's go to our next one. So we need to allow our users to buy a stock when clicking on it when it's bought. So there are two deliverables here. There's one for selling and one for buying a stock. I'm going to go through the buying a stock, and then I'm going to have you go through selling a stock. So when I think about this, I think that I'm going to need a portfolio. And I would like to define my portfolio up here. I'm going to define it as a bit of state in my most parent component, and I'm going to assign it an empty array. So I need to somehow get a stock of some sort into this portfolio. And the way that I want to do that is I want to take that stock and I want to take it from its child component and pass it all the way back up to this parent app so that I can run a set state to update this portfolio and put in that stock, which means I need to define a function up here to pass down. So I'm going to build a function. We are going to call it add stock. I'm going to make it an arrow function. Ooh. And for right now, let's go ahead and pass it as stock, and we will console log that stock. I'm going to pass this down all the way to our stock container. So we're going to start here. And I'm going to pass this down with this dot add a stock. Now I don't have to do this dot state because this is not a piece of state. This is a method that is built onto our app. So I'm going to take this and we are going to go to our main container. From our main container, we're going to go to stocks and we're going to pass down add stock. There you go. And we're going to pass it this dot props dot add stock. And then we're going to go to our stock container. And for every stock, I would like every stock to have access to that function. So we are again going to pass add stock. And we will do this dot props dot add stock. And then in our stocks, I'm going to do some destructuring again and do add stock here. Now I can call add stock on my function. So for right now, I'm going to console log add stock just to make sure it's being brought down properly. All right, that looks like stock with our console log of stock. That means we're not calling it, but this is being passed down correctly. All right, now that I'm here, I need to call this somehow. What do I put on my component that will listen for a callback?
An event.
An event, cool. Let's do, what event should we put on here?
On click.
Sounds good. And we are going to pass our on click the add stock.
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
So in line 3, you put stock and add stock inside those curly brackets. So that means I don't need to write like say this dot that or something like that. Or I'm just wondering.
This is a functional component. You would have had to do props dot stock and props dot add stock. This is the destructuring you were talking about doing, but a little bit different. It's just a little cleaner. So up here, instead of having to do con stock equals props blah blah, and then needing to call props.stock and props.addStock, prop.stock like .name. What this does is get rid of the props here. So now you only have to do stock and add stock.
Oh, okay.
It
Cool,
works.
thanks.
Yeah, it works essentially like how you were talking about destructuring it earlier. It's just another way to do it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead and click a stock and see what happens. Looks like we got our event. Doesn't look like the stock though. It does look like an event. So this is being passed an event. And for those a little bit more visual, what this actually looks like underneath the hood is on click, curly braces. It takes a callback and it's passed an event and it calls add stock and it passes that event. So that's what is actually happening underneath the hood.
Is this pooling?
Sorry, what was that?
Is this pooling?
Can you explain pooling?
I don't know. Could you explain it, please?
I've actually not heard that term. That's why I've asked. So let's go ahead and check it out afterwards, and we'll see if this counts as that.
I think
This is. Go on.
I think I understand what it means, sort of. It's like if it's an asynchronous function, it's something that you do to pool it in with the rest of the other functions so that it doesn't function asynchronously.
So I hear. Okay, that's interesting. I've heard it as bubble up and not pooling. So just different terms for different things, I guess. Good to know. Thanks for telling me that.
I'm not sure if that's totally accurate. Don't quote me, but that's my understanding of it.
We can check it out afterwards and see. Just remind me, because I'm prone to forgetting. Okay, cool. So we have this and right. So we have our event being passed up here as our stock. How do I grab the stock itself?
Dot value, maybe?
Stock.value. Let's see.
Well, so did you pass an event?
So the event got passed automatically.
And is that technically stock? Like you can call it whatever you want, so you're calling it stock. So is stock basically taking the place of event here?
Yes, it is. So,
Okay, so
I was being kind of literal with what you were saying, but we can replace it with E if you want, and that makes more sense.
well, yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, or maybe e.target.value. I get confused.
let's try
but
that. I like the sound of that. Let's give it a shot. It looks like we have a undefined. Let's see.
Maybe try e.target.
Let's see what happens.
I think it's because e.target.value is asking for the value inside.
So we got e.target on this. That's interesting.
Huh.
Why?
And then we should go to grab Google.
Let's see here.
We hit Google.
We should be able to Google. Let me see. Let me try grabbing outside here. There's the card body. We're grabbing this, right?
Oh,
Is
maybe
this
that's why. So if you put
what we
inside,
want? Yeah, like think about that. So we are grabbing the DOM element. Do we want the DOM element or do we want the stock?
we want the stock itself, right?
Yep. So how do I pass add stock, that stock?
I believe it's card body.
Well, we have it in stock here. So since we're calling it, we can go ahead, do that anonymous function and pass it the full stock. So now if we go back here, let's go ahead and change this back to stock. Instead of passing the event, we pass the entire stock.
Oh.
So this is
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So this is a gotcha that you'll run into a couple times if you haven't already. With React and sometimes in JavaScript, we don't necessarily want to always pass the event. We want to pass the event when we're grabbing information from a form or we're grabbing information from our DOM. But in this case, in this component, we have access to the stock itself. So instead of grabbing anything from the card, let's just use the card as the trigger for this add stock method that we pass down. Sorry about that. For this add stock method we pass down, and we'll just pass it the entire stock since we have access to it now. Cool. All right. So now that we have that add stock, passing that all the way back up here, we'll go ahead and set the state for a portfolio and add our stock.
Don't you want to push it into the portfolio? Because I thought
We'll talk about that in a second. So we take a look at our stocks. Let's do this one more time. I think we have to see it. There's our portfolio. Our portfolio now has a stock in it. Now, pushing in a item does not actually make a duplicate of the array. I'm not sure if you already covered this, but React has a rule where you do not modify state. What we want to do is we want to make a copy of state and then put our new bit of state inside of it. And the way that we can do that best is with a spread operator. So if we spread out state, this dot state dot portfolio, and then we add in our new stock, this will make a copy of what's currently in state, and this will add in the next stock. We went over this spread operator mod 3. I'm not sure if Sundar touched on it again. But this is just one way to do it, and one of the best and easiest ways to make a copy of state. So now we should have our stock in portfolio. Cool. I do think we'll end up having one issue, which we now have 2 Googles in our stock portfolio, which we don't want. So I need a bit of functionality before this. What can I do to prevent doubling up on my portfolio here?
Can't you just check if it's already inside the portfolio?
I like it. Let's do an if, and then what do you want me to use for that? Is there a function in JavaScript that checks an array to see if it has something?
Include.
Yeah. So if this dot state dot portfolio does not include our stock, we're going to go ahead and set our stock's state, our portfolio state with our new stock. Else we're not going to do anything. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. Our Google twice, and it looks like we only updated it once with our portfolio, with our Googles, and now we have our portfolio with just our Facebooks, but no double Googles. Perfect. Good call. All right, so we have this done. I love it. Looks great. Cool. We need to pass this down to populate the portfolio. Since we walked through the stocks already, can someone walk me through building out the portfolio? Let's do it at a piece at a time. So how am I passing down the portfolio to our portfolio container?
Well, it's being passed through the main container, so I guess, is that a good starting point?
Sure. We'll do portfolio, and we'll pass down this dot state dot portfolio. Perfect. And then in our main container,
I guess we put it in portfolio container, right?
Sounds good.
Because that's where we want our stock.
Exactly. Portfolio. And this dot props dot portfolio. And then our portfolio container looks very similar to our stock container. So what do I do here now?
Just
Let's take a look at a stocks container.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's kind of like that too. Yeah, that's right. I got confused.
It's probably going to be pretty similar. So I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah.
copy this. And let's go ahead and reuse it here. Instead of stocks, we'll do portfolio. And we'll do a portfolio item instead of a stock item. Portfolio. So we aren't passing it at stocks right now. I'm gonna go ahead. This is gonna error out if I don't pass it though. Let's go ahead and real quick, just to keep this from being upset at us. We'll put this back in a second. We won't pass it, and let's see if we can get our, well, I guess we're gonna need it actually. Never mind. All right, so we have this. We aren't passing it at stock. Let's go ahead and in our main container also pass this at stock just to keep it from complaining. Let's take a look. And we add our stocks. Looks like it's not getting populated quite yet, but I do see our portfolio there. Oh, there we go. We forgot to call it. So let's put this here. We'll do this dot build stocks and call it. Stock item is not defined anymore. I thought I replaced this. There we go.
I think what about the middle? What about the middle prop?
The middle prop, we're going to keep this as stock right now,
Okay.
because we used inside of our stock child, or in our stock component child, stock is what we're using for the stock that gets passed. Our portfolio, we're passing our portfolio item, but at the end of the day, that is a stock. And so in order for us to utilize this child stock method, child stock component, this needs to match what we name it in here. So since we have it in our child component, has the stock here, so we don't have to do some crazy logic inside of our child component, I'm just going to take a shortcut and make sure that this has the same naming convention as our stock container. So that this prop, whether it's coming from stock item or portfolio item, by the time it gets to stock container, will be called stock. Does that make sense?
Kinda, yeah.
All right, and there's Google. So let's go over that one more time, because this is a little weird. So if you think of this as a triangle with the stock child in the middle, it is feeding into the stock child. It is feeding into a stock of some sort, a portfolio item or a stock item into that stock child. The props, what the key for the props is, will be decided by you inside that parent component. So this can be banana, this can be cat, this can be whatever. What this has to be is whatever you are going to call it in its child component. So since this child component is making use of the keyword of stock, in order for both my pieces of data, both my stock item and my portfolio item to be seen as a stock in the stock container, when I build that stock, I have to use the same naming convention here. So that is why I use stock here instead of portfolio item. That way this will be stock.
Isn't that also kind of tied up back to main container as well? That's why you also use it as
it's main container here. We are passing down stocks and portfolio, right? We pass down add stock here because we just need it to add it, otherwise it would error out. But the way that this works is we named our key portfolio here, and that is why in portfolio container we're doing this .props.portfolio instead of this .props.stock.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just wondering how it ties up with main container. That's all.
Yeah, they're two different things here. It's kind of like it goes from the app and it splits, and then it kind of goes back and conjoins into stock. So it's a little weird. It's, if you imagine stock being like two separate entities for these, where it's like there are two stocks, it's just we're using the same naming convention, so it's more dynamic, which will come in handy with the remove stock. So now that I've made that, walk me through how to build remove stock.
I guess is it the opposite of add stock? Like if it's there, like delete it?
Yeah. So let's go step by step. How do I build remove stock? Let's start with passing it down. How do I get it down to main container?
So parentheses.
Okay.
Stock, right?
That sounds good.
Arrow sign. Yeah, curly braces.
And let's just console log for right now. Okay. Now how do I get this down?
How do you get what down?
How do I pass this down to our next component?
Well, I think the next line would be really similar to line 20.
Well, we're not going to do that part yet. We're just console logging for right now. We need to pass this down to our component first, and then we'll work on the inside of remove stock. You're right. It will be very similar to this, though. So I just want to get remove stock into main container. How do I do that?
Remove line 34. Or at the end, yeah, I was thinking about that. Remove stock equals this equals curly brackets this dot remove stock.
Looks good. All right. So now this is in main container. How do I get this down to portfolio container?
Just simply replace add stock.
I like it.
With remove stock.
I like it. I like it.
I mean, shouldn't you want to keep that add stock?
Let's talk about that in portfolio container. So we do have add stock here. Is there a way we can utilize the same kind of logic that we used for stock here so that we can pass dynamic callbacks here, or a dynamic method here, so that when we're in stock, whatever, this can be any method that we pass it. It doesn't have to necessarily be at stock. So how is the stock working? Why can we use stock both in portfolio and in the stock container?
Because it's being passed down.
Because that's the name of the key. So since these are both going to the stock container, how can I utilize that to be able to call something here to represent either add or remove stock? And whatever is passed here will equal whatever method it gets passed from props. What should I name the key that is being called in the stock container? I'm not looking for a right answer here. I just need a name.
Can we name it X?
We're gonna name it X. Thank you, Hal. We'll name it X here, and we'll name it X here. And we're going to name it X when we had it here. And we are going to pass X, remove stock. So X is going to be the key for remove stock and the key for add stock. When we're in stock, we're going to call the method of X, whatever that may be, here and pass it stock. So now, if we go here, we refresh this, let's add a stock to our Google. So our adding's still working. And we will remove that and we'll get our console log from app. So let's, Hal, can you kind of walk me through why this worked?
Because passing props is a lot like naming variables,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah. So when we're naming our variable in our parent component, we can pick whatever name that we want, and whatever we pass that will be called in our child component. So this could be whatever we want. Since we are calling multiple components with stock, and I want to be able to call this function, whether it is being called from my stocks lane or stocks column or my portfolio column, I want to be able to reuse this X variable. So I can pass it any method that I want attached to that stock. Since the stocks here only need the add stock method and the stocks here only need the remove stock method, they each only need one on click. So I can, like when I'm passing either a portfolio here or a portfolio item, I can pass my remove method or my add portfolio, depending on which one needs it. So only the portfolios will need the remove stock, and only the stocks on this line will need the add stock.
Because it explains why add stock was.
Yeah, exactly. So now this is dynamic. This can be whatever we want it to be. We could build another component that called stock and pass it another method of some sort, and it doesn't necessarily. And as long as the key of that parent is X, it doesn't matter what this is. It will. This on click will do whatever it was passed.
So I feel like maybe a less confusing variable name would be add or remove stock.
You know,
That's what you do for both, right?
Yeah, you know, I like my name more, but I get where you're going here. And we'll do add or remove stock here. Oops, let me copy that better. And then we'll do that the same in stock container. Let's make sure that's working here. We are Google adding, and we have our console log back up here. Perfect. Thank you so much, Hal. All right. So now that we're getting this, I think, Tisdale, what was your idea for this line?
Oh, like I think you could literally copy paste line 20 and then just take out the exclamation point.
Cool. I think that since this is I get where, okay, let's try this. We'll do this.
No, I was saying just line 20, but.
Oh, just line 20, okay. Like this, and do this. Or are you meaning this line 20? Sorry, I'm doing 21. I'm dumb, sorry. Here we go. So you want to check to see if it includes the stocks. What do you want to do?
Get rid of it.
Okay. So one thing that we can use to get rid of it is a filter. So if we do this.state.portfolio.filter, we can run a callback through here, and we can say if our item does not match our stock, then we are going to allow it to be in our new filtered array. So let's make a array, new portfolio, and let's go ahead and just start by console logging this. All right. So that looks empty. That looks right. Let's go ahead and try this again with a little bit more in it. We'll do Google, Facebook, Twitter, and it looks like we are removing everything, or we're removing the item we clicked on. So it's rebuilding the array without Facebook. Sounds good. All right. How do I get this new portfolio to state now?
Is it set state?
Yeah, this dot set state. Perfect. And we'll do portfolio. And we'll pass it our new portfolio. Now, in this case, our filter built us a new array. So this is already a copy of the portfolio that's in state. So we do not need to use the spread operator here. This is a brand new array. We are not mutating state. This made a copy of the array with the filter method. And so we can just take this and we can put it into portfolio. With it?
Yeah, I have a question regarding line 21 again.
Yeah.
Could you inside set state? Can you explain why on the right side portfolio you wrote it like that?
Because we
21.
need the way that React works is that there's a rule in React, and that is to not mutate state. That means we cannot go into state, and we are not supposed to push items onto state. This is a general rule for React, and it's a rule you'll carry on with Redux. You don't want to mutate state in any way. It tends to cause more bugs in the future. Technically, you can do so without it causing an error, but that is not the best practice for React. What you want to do is you want to make a copy of the current version of state and then mutate and change that copy. In order to do that, we're using the spread operator here, which takes everything in the this.state.portfolio and it spreads it into this array here. And then we are adding the new stock onto it. So we had a pretty long lecture on the spread operator and other things in mod 3. So I'm happy to do a breakout lecture to go over the spread operator again later today if you want. If y'all don't remember.
It's not that. I was just trying to clarify things because it was that part that it's been kind of.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking about it for the last few minutes. That's why. So.
I would like that. The spread operator thing.
We can totally do that. I love talking about the spread operator. So I understand it's a little confusing because it technically doesn't break, right? So it's like, why can't I just push things into state? Why can't I mutate state? It would make sense to do that. But with React and with Redux, it is best practice to never mutate state. You want your functionality to be pure, you don't want side effects, and you want to avoid mutating the existing state and only replace state with a brand new copy of state every time we update our components. This just prevents more bugs from trickling down and updating pieces of state that you didn't mean to. Again, doesn't technically error out, but this is the best practice, and this is a best practice that people will be looking for in your React apps and will be expecting you to follow. But that is why we make the copy. So
because it's just that when we were doing the sushi one back on Friday, we kind of didn't. Some of us didn't really kind of do what it was done in line 21. So I was just wondering.
You don't have to do the spread operator as long as you find some way to make a copy of state, like maybe using a filter or using a map, anything that makes a copy of an array, which would be making a copy of that piece of state. That's perfectly fine. So here, down on line 27, 28, I used filter, and the way the filter works is it builds a brand new array and from this.state.portfolio because of the way the filter works. Map is the same. Map will build you a brand new array. So if you use a method like that, you don't have to use the spread operator. Remember, for each doesn't build you an array, it mutates the original array. So you just need to understand or find methods that will build you a new array instead of mutating the original one, or find some other way to do it. That's the main thing I'm looking for. You don't have to use the spread operator if you don't get it. You just need to make a copy of state and update state with that copy instead of mutating state.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Things are starting to click now. I'm starting to understand a little bit more of like why remove stock is written that way and why add stock is written how you wrote it. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So we have add stock. We have remove stock. Let's go ahead and click those stocks off. Billy, I'm forgetting something here. Let me think. What am I forgetting? I think this is fine. Okay, so now we have the sort users alphabetically and sort users by price, and then we have the filter stock by type. Which one of these would you like to do first? So that is the radio buttons up here or this filter.
Can we do the sort by first?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, if we're going to do the sort by, I'm going to break you out into breakout rooms. What I would like you to do, I'm going to put you into 2 rooms. I would like room 1 to look up a way to sort an array alphabetically. And I would like room 2 to find a way to sort an array with price. Now, what is important from here is that you need to be able to sort an array of objects. Passing dot sort through, if you test it out, won't work if you just try to pass like array.sort.stock.name. That's not going to work out. There's something else you'll have to do. So I'll put you in the 2 groups. I'll give you about 10 minutes to kind of talk through it, and we'll come together and talk about what those 2 methods are. All right? I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and then I'm going to Hal.
Yeah,
I know.
almost.
Either that or can you make 2 breakout rooms and destroy all of your hard work?
Horrible.
I know. I mean, that's why my room's the Palace of Terror, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just indefinitely remake every single breakout room for the rest of your life. So perfect. Thank you so much. So group 1, go ahead and do alphabetical. Group 2, do stock, price. And we'll come back in a couple minutes. So, what did you name the 2 breakout rooms?
Space observation chamber and Earth observation station.
Okay, so let's have a space observation whatever station chamber. Do alphabetical, and the Earth one do price. All right. See.
Oh, the Captain Price.
See y'all in about 10 minutes. Cal, do you mind on closing down the breakout rooms and having them come back in?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks. All right, welcome back, everyone. So we will use the algorithms that you wrote in a second. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go through building out the function that will trigger them first. So I'm going to make a function and I'm going to call it sort stocks. This sort stocks is going to take an event. And inside of this, we are going to do a if. And we're going to say if the event.target.value is equal to alphabetically. Yes?
Are you screen sharing?
No, I'm not. I'm the worst. I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me. There we go. Let's go over that one more time. So sort stocks. I am sharing, right? And you're seeing my code? Cool. Sort stocks will have this if in it. And it will say, if the event.target.value is equal to alphabetically, then we are going to do the alphabetical sort. Space group. Else, we are going to do the price sort. So, I'm going to go ahead and pass this to our main container. From our main container, I'm going to pass it to our search bar because this is where our radio buttons are. And from our search bar, we have our alphabetical and we have this price here. So on here, on change, I'm going to call our search method. So this is a functional component, so I have to use props. And since I'm only passing one prop down here, I'm just going to use props because I don't really have to pass much else. So I'm going to use props.sort and props.sort. So now we'll need to go back to here. Depending on which one I hit, it will go ahead and trigger this. So let's do a console.log for space and a console.log for earth. So if I hit price, then I should see earth, but I see that I'm having some issues. Let's see. Sort stocks. Sort. And sort. And yeah, there we go. That should be right. There was some bad naming on my part. All right. Not seeing this hit. Let's see if I messed up again. We have sort equal this dot sort stocks. Let's see if it's getting called at all. And let's look at our search bar. What am I forgetting? Props.sort. That looks right.
Do you call it sort? What do you call it?
So in here, I called it. There you are. You're right. Let's try that once more. There we go. Here's Earth. All right. So now that we got that calling correctly, good call on that. Thank you for catching me. All right.
Do you mind showing the stock object really quick?
Oh, the stock object. So here we aren't using the stock object at all. So what we're doing here is
What's the object that we're using?
We're using the event. Here, since we are in our search bar, we have this input here and this input here. We're using the event to get the value of these inputs. And the value of these inputs are alphabetically and price. So here we are not sending it the stock. We are sending this we're making this a trigger to trigger either the alphabetical sort or the price sort. So we're using the same function, and depending on which of these values gets sent up, we are going to call the sorting function. So here, with this event.target, when we console log this, we do event.target.value. Here is where we get the price. And when we click this one is where we get alphabetically. So this is a case where we're not passing in a stock, we are utilizing the form this time. Does that make sense? Okay. Now that we actually got there, alphabetically, team space, can you tell me how I can sort something alphabetically?
We just looked at dot sort.
Okay, so what did you call dot sort on? Or what would you?
The list of stocks, right?
Yeah, so this dot stocks dot sort, and then how did you do the dot sort?
It was going to be, so we plugged in two stocks, like stock A and stock B.
Okay, I like it.
I have it all formatted out. I can send it to you, but I don't know if it has the right variables.
That's fine. Just talk me through it. So after stock A and stock B, we define that. Now what?
I think we use like an arrow function and then like a ternary statement.
Okay. And what's that statement?
So it's just going to be A dot name is less than B dot name.
Is less than B dot name.
And then it was just question mark, -1:1.
Great.
With spaces. But yeah.
So the reason that this is happening is because, do you understand why? The reason that we're using the -1 and the +1 is because the way that dot sort works, when you pass it a callback like this, is depending on if the result is positive or negative, it will sort A in front of B or B in front of A. So let's see if this works for this. I did not define A up here. And this is the case in which you need the curly brackets for the arrow function. Let's see price now. Let's go ahead and set this to let new stock, and we will just console log the new stock. And we'll do alphabetically. So I got this error. Why do I have this error? I forgot something important. This should be a pretty common thing you run into.
Is it because you forgot state?
Yes, that's exactly it. All right, and let's see if our stocks are sorted. I see Amazon first. That looks good. I don't remember what B, A, C is, but that is definitely after A. C, F, G, J, N, T, W, V. Perfect. We have our stocks sorted alphabetically. Great job. So again, this works because of the way sort works. Sort can take a function, and depending if the value is greater than or less than, we use this ternary and to say if this is true, we're going to return a -1. If it's a -1, sort will put one A in front of B. And if it returns a +1, it will put B in front of A. I may have that backwards, but So Earth now. You probably did something similar. How do I sort stocks by price?
Well, it's kind of like line 35, except it's a this dot state dot stocks dot price, I believe.
So I think that you're right, but I think you mean price here, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And let's give it a shot. Oops, I forgot to console log our new
Wait,
stock.
we need to console log this bad boy.
Yeah, let's do that. New stock. And let's take a look. And then let's look at let's make this bigger. I have to see those prices. All right, those prices look like they are in order from least to greatest. Looks great. Good job, everyone. There's a couple different ways to write this. This is probably one of the cleanest and easiest, so I'm proud of you both figuring it out. So great job on that. Last part. Now that I have these new stocks, since these are now sort makes a new copy, we can go ahead and set our state. So we'll do this dot state, set state. And we will set stocks, yep, with new stocks. And then we'll do the same here. And now, let's make this smaller. Alphabetically, Amazon, perfect. And price, Under Armour, going all the way up.
Oh, that's low.
Cool, cool. All right, y'all, great job on that. Okay, so I think that we still have time before I have to hop out to a meeting. Hal, when is our meeting? Do you remember?
It's not for a minute. I think it's actually at 4.
Perfect.
Wait, 3:30.
All right. I think that's enough time to get our last deliverable done. So thank you so much for helping me through that one. We'll go ahead and put an X here. And then now we're going to allow users to filter stock based off the type of stock. So due to time constraints, I'll probably run through this one, but I'll try to go slowly. So for our stocks, let's take a actual look at our stocks. Our stock object, there they are, has a type. And that type is either going to be tech, sportswear, or finance. So we are going to be sorting by one of these. In order for me to do that, I need to be able to grab whatever is selected in this drop down from this filter, which means I'm going to need to build a method up here that will edit a method here, or edit some state here. So I'm going to make a method called search.
Search type.
Search type, whichever. And I'm going to pass this a event. And this search type is something that we're going to pass down to our search bar. For right now, let's go ahead and just console log the event and make sure we get this passed correctly. So search is going to go down to main container. Search, there you go. And then in main container, we're going to pass search to our, I believe it's in our search bar here. Yeah, we have it here. We'll do to search is equal to this dot props dot search. And inside of our search bar, we will here on change trigger that search method. So this is a functional component. We use props. So I'll do props dot search. Now let's see what we console log. Cool. We have our event. So when we hit our event, it gets passed all the way back up to our search here, and we're console logging the E. let's do e.target.value and see if we are getting the value from our dropdown. So our search options have values here. So that's why I'm going to do e.target.value in this case. I'm not looking to pass in anything specific. I'm looking to see which DOM element my user is interacting with. So I'm not passing in a stock or anything. We're just seeing what they're clicking on. So here, if I do that, we get sportswear. So now that we are passing that back up, we can make use of it in the search function. So there is something that I would like to do. I would like to take my stocks and I would like to update it with a new array of filtered stocks. So I'm going to use the filter method again. I'm going to let new stocks equal this dot state dot stocks dot filter. I'm going to take every item in my stock array and I'm going to say if my item dot type equals whatever my event dot type I passed in was, then I'm going to make an array from that of only those values. So for every item, if its type matches that target, the new stock should be spelled correctly. There you go. The new stock should only have items from that particular thing. So for sportswear, it looks like I have Nike and Under Armour. That sounds right. Now, we'll go back to what that bug is in a second. In finance, we have Visa, Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Citibank. Perfect. Now, it looks like our filter is working, but you might have noticed, if I try to go back, things get a little weird. Oh, nope, never mind, I'm a liar. This will work for right now. But we will run into this bug in a second. So now that I have this, I'm going to set the state. This dot set state. I'm going to have our stocks equal our new stocks. Again, this is a copy, so I don't need to do the spread operator here. Should be good. All right. Now we do that. We have Nike and Under Armour. Now this was the problem I was worried about. We lose our stocks after the first drop down. So, why do you think this is happening? What are your ideas here?
Is it because we've like deleted the stuff? That's why. So we want to be a little.
Correct. Yeah, so every time we set stocks, we change that to only the smallest or the stocks that we have filtered from. So when this does the search again, it's only filtering off those two stocks. What we are going to do is we're going to create a stocks.all, and we are going to use this as a piece of state that will hold our stocks but will not change. So when we do a component in mount, where did I put it? Up here. When we set the state of stocks, we are also going to set the state of stock all to JSON so that these both get populated. I would like my stocks to continue passing down like normal, but when I do this filter, instead of going off the stock array that I'm filtering on, I'm going to filter on all stocks. And all stocks will never be updated in state, so that this will always have all the stocks in it. So every time I hit this search, I will be pulling from a fresh pool of full stocks. So now we do this. We have Nike, and that should work. Let's see if I'm a liar. All right, we have our this dot state all stocks. We have our filter, our stocks is our new stock. Let's try this one more time. It should work. Sportswear. Tech. All right, I just didn't load it. So this is now working. So every time it filters, instead of going through the smaller stock, it will grab that all stock and work. And that's our last deliverable. All right. What would you like me to go over again?
So just can you go back to the filters, all the stocks?
Yeah.
So basically we want to replace that one so that we just keep grabbing from the new one, and because we set it to, and we set new stocks to, I mean, it's like then we set the state of stocks to be new stocks, so that's why it's never going to change it. Is that the reason why we're able to?
Yeah. So we are filtering. Yeah. So what we're doing is our entire application runs off of the stock array. And what is on the page will depend on what our stock array is populating with. In order for us to make sure we are filtering through all the stocks that we are existing, instead of just the new stock array we updated in state, we need to have a piece of state that holds all of our stocks. So that way, every time we do a filter, we're looking at all of the stocks instead of any filtered stocks. So if I only had, say, finance, instead of just filtering for finance for anything with a type of tech, which doesn't exist at this moment because this stocks array doesn't have anything with a type of tech, it will instead go to all stocks, which have all of our stocks in it, and then filter through that array, which does still have the items with a type of tech in it. Cool.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
Just making sure. Thank you.
Sounds great. What other things would you like me to go over while I'm here?
Just to make sure that my understanding of it is correct, we pass add stock and remove stock to the main container. And
Correct.
then once we're in the main container, is that where you changed it, where it is no.
So that, I think I know what you're talking about. Where this gets changed to add and remove stock is going to be in the portfolio container and in the stock container. So these two containers are what are pointing down to stock, right? So stock needs to have a dynamic key of some sort that I can pass both add stock and remove stock through. So doing add or remove stock here allows me to call either add or remove stock here, because add or remove stock on that particular stock, if it's in the stocks column, it will only have the add stock function. If it's in the portfolio column, it will have the remove stock function, because of the way that we passed the props remove stock or add stock in the stock container and the portfolio container.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. What else?
I don't know if you wanted to do this in like a separate lecture, but the spread operator is something I would love if you could elaborate on just in general. But if you want to keep it to just this code, that I understand.
Let's go ahead and do that after I get back from my meetings in a little bit. Unless there's no other questions. Are there any other questions about this?
Are you gonna upload this code?
Of course, I will upload this code and I'll upload this video. And I would upload a video of my cat if I could, but he does not stand still for that. So I will upload these both.
Thank you.
Also, we're supposed to be talking about pooling.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, so do we want to go over the spread operator or do we want to go over pooling first?
Pooling?
Okay. So let's go ahead and check out what pooling is. So I'm going to